Oh yeah, that's right guys, it's Saturday night again. I'm drinking beer, I'm building costumes and making YouTube videos. You're probably asking yourself though by now, why do I never talk about the beers I'm drinking? I always make this big deal out of it. I come in here and I grab that beautiful sip, but then I never say anything about the beer. Well, I guess that's mostly because I'm making cosplay videos. I'm not doing beer reviews, but I realize there's a lot of beer drinkers out there and you're probably curious what I'm drinking. So from here on out, as long as I'm not drinking like a Bud Light, I'll let you know what it is. So, tonight's beer is from a company in Long Island. It's called Blue Point. This is a hazy bastard, a juicy IPA. It's a hoppy beer, and it is very good. So if you're in the area, give it a shot. I think you'll like it. Tonight's video is actually about visors. I get a lot of questions about my visors. People want to know how I made them, what I covered them with, can you see through them? So hopefully I can answer all those questions for you tonight. My visors are made out of 1/8 thick acrylic sheet, which is basically plexiglass. You can get this from Lowe's or Home Depot. It's about $10 a sheet, depending on what size you get. It's pretty easy to work. You can heat this up. You can cut it. The way I cut it is well, there's two ways I've cut it before. I've cut it with a jigsaw. The thing you got to think about with a jigsaw is that when it's moving up and down, it generates a lot of heat, so it'll kind of melt spots. But you can clean it up afterwards. Then the other way I cut it is with a utility knife. You basically just run that utility knife along it. You score that line where you want to cut. And then once it's scored, you can snap it, and it's a real nice clean cut. If you end up having a jagged piece or anything like that, though, you can use a rotary tool and clean it up. It's pretty easy to clean up, and you can also sand it. It comes with a window film on it, so it keeps it protected, so it doesn't get scratched at the store or during transport, so it's pretty good. You heat this up. I use my heat gun to heat it up. A couple things about that you want to be careful with. Don't overheat it. If you do, you can actually start distorting it, and it won't really look right when you're looking through it or looking at it. And then the other thing is, too, is if you heat it up too much and say I put it onto something with a texture like this foam mat, and I pushed on it, well, if I had it hot enough, that imprint would then be in my plexiglass, and that's not something you want unless that's a look that you're trying to achieve with that. So keep that in mind. I've covered these things with two things to get basically the color and reflectiveness. I've used the headlight film, the vinyl film. It's like a chameleon type thing. It goes on the outside. It's not really clear looking through it, so that's one thing to think about. But that's one way I've done it, not the way I choose to do. And then the other way I like to do, and the way that looks a lot better, is reflective window tint or film. You can get this stuff off Amazon. They used to sell it at stores. Unfortunately, it's not legal in most of the states now. I think pretty much illegal in every state. But Amazon has it. If you got Prime like I do, you can get it Prime in a couple different colors. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting a while because a lot of these come directly from China. But they come in different colors. There's two styles of this window film. There's a static cling, which you don't want to use. And then there's this adhesive one. So with this adhesive one, there's actually a clear film on here. And I'll show you how to spread that apart in a second. But there's actually adhesive on this, and it sticks on. So that's that. Couple tools you're going to need for this stuff, for working that. There's two ways you can actually apply it. I don't know if you've done any kind of window tinting for cars, but the way you do that is you would take this application solution, you spray it on the window, you spray it on your window tint, and then you would take the squeegee, and then you squeegee that water out from behind it. That's great for cars. It really doesn't work too well when it comes to visors. So what I like to do is I'll just peel that protective layer off that film, and then I'll just stick it on with this and just work it and work those bubbles out as I'm sticking it on. But I'm going to actually show you guys how to do that and give you a quick rundown how to cut this. So let's get into it. Alright, so first thing I'm going to go over is cutting. Like I said, the way I like to do it is I like to use a utility knife. I think it ends up being cleaner and not messy, and basically I'm not running the risk of melting my plexiglass. So the way you do it, just take your blade, draw your line wherever you want on here, whatever it's going to be, and just cut. Slowly, even pressure. It's going to feel kind of weird cutting this, but I usually like to run it a couple times, just make sure I got a nice score line. So you can see that score mark on there now. And basically all you do is just take it and bend it. And you see how it broke clean right along that score line I had. And there's that film that I was talking about. Just cut that off. And there you go. Nice clean cut on both sides. Really easy to do. If you're going to be doing some crazy, like, kind of, you know, curves and stuff like that, this isn't going to work for you. You would want to use something probably like a jigsaw or a scroll saw, something like that. But this, if you're doing a straight cut, this will work great for you. So, let's move on to heating and bending. Now, I'm not going to do a full sheet because it's going to take some time, so I figured I'd do something a little bit smaller and just show you how it bends. So, just take your heat gun. Like I said, real easy, gentle. You don't want to get too hot with this thing. Just sit there and just heat it. Slowly. Just work it back and forth. You don't want to hold it on in one spot because this will melt. I can already feel it. It's starting to get softer. Just keep pressure on it. I'm using the table to keep the pressure on it as I'm bending it with this hand here. Alright, here we go. It's starting to bend. So after I heat it and bend it, I'll hold it for a second, let it cool down. And there you go. That's how easy it is to heat and bend this stuff. You could do, if you want to do a round piece, you could do a round piece. If you want to do like an angle like I have on this one here, something like that, you could do that. It's pretty easy. Just make sure that when you're heating it, you're being careful not to, say, heat this spot when you want to heat this. So what I did with that is I would put one piece of foam here and a piece of foam here and just ran my heat here. So I knew that the heat was concentrated in just that corner and I wasn't going to be bending anything else. So just something to think about with that. But that's how that heats and bends. Really, really pretty easy to do. It took me a couple times to get a hang of it. You know, I was heating stuff up and, you know, just kind of doing it wrong and overheating stuff. But once you figure it out, it's pretty easy to do. So let's talk about tinting. Now, I'm not going to talk about the other film. So I'm just going to talk about the reflective window film because it's really what I do. So to split this, because it has a protective layer on this one side, I'll take two pieces of tape, put it on one side, and then put it on the opposite side, just like that, okay? Squeeze it together, and then take that and separate those two pieces. Now, I don't know if you can see it. Yep, you can. You can see this clear layer coming off there. Now, this side here is the adhesive side. So, this is a small piece that was pulled off. Usually, I'll work it off as I'm putting it onto a piece. But since this is a small one, I'll just pull the whole thing off. And I'll just bend it over like that. This is a piece I'm going to apply this to right here. So just pick a spot, put it on. Okay. And then flip it over. And then take this tool. You could get this tool on Amazon. You could probably get it from Harbor Freight, Home Depot, stuff like that. Or actually probably AutoZone, stores like that. And just work those bubbles out. Just work it on. Just like that. There's a couple bubbles in there, but this is just for practice to show you guys. And that's what your finished product will look like. When the light's hitting it, you can't see my hand through it. Certain lights you can, but most of the time you cannot see through this. If it's attached to a helmet, you definitely can't see through it, and it looks awesome. And then I'll just take my blade and just trim it up right along the line. Make it look nice and clean. But that's pretty much it. Works great, looks good. You can't see through it. And it's custom. Alright guys, so I think that pretty much wraps it up on visors. Hopefully I was able to explain this well enough and you guys understand 100% how this goes, you know, especially with the tinting. I think the tinting is the hardest thing about this. And then the rest of it's really just, working it and just seeing what you can and can't do with this plexiglass. This is $10. It's not really too much. Get a sheet and just try it and see what you could do, what's going to work for you, what's not. I'm not going to say this is going to work for every project you have, but if you have something that you need a visor, something like this, something straight or maybe just bent, curved a little bit like Jazz helmet there, I know you guys have seen that. It's going to work perfectly for you and you're going to be really happy with the results. So just try it out. Just try a couple different things. Get some of that window tint and just see what you can and can't do. I think you'll be really happy with it. And if you use it on your visor, you're going to be amazed by how clear you could see. Because a lot of these things you can buy, they're just not really clear when you try to look through it. So I think you'll be really happy. Just give it a shot and see what you think. But as always, you guys can always check out my current projects on Instagram at BMBids. And if you have any specific projects or anything you want to see how I do it, please let me know. Hit me up in the comments or hit me up on Instagram. Instagram's probably the best way to get a hold of me. But other than that, if you guys like this video and it helps you out, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later.